The line stretched across the massive hall of Registry Station Omega-7, winding between holographic displays and floating data screens. Hundreds of species waited their turn at the bioscanners, a mandatory process for anyone seeking trading licenses in this sector of the galaxy. The air hummed with translator devices converting thousands of languages into comprehensible chatter. Near the back of the line stood Tom Harrison, a cargo pilot from Earth. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, checking his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. His ship, loaded with farming equipment bound for the Tertian colonies, sat in the docking bay accumulating parking fees by the hour. This whole registration thing was supposed to be quick. Step into the scanner, get classified, receive the permit, and leave. That's what the orientation packet had promised. The Velcorn clerk at Station 12 waved forward a large, crystalline being that sparkled under the overhead lights. Tom watched as the creature stepped into a cylindrical platform surrounded by swirling blue energy. The scanner pulsed once, twice, then displayed a green symbol above the platform. The crystalline being collected a data chip from the clerk and moved along. The whole process took maybe 30 seconds. "Next," called the clerk, its voice coming through Tom's translator as a pleasant chime. Tom approached Station 12, nodding at the Velcorn. The clerk's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as it reviewed the data pad. "Name and homeworld?" "Tom Harrison. Earth." The clerk's eyes blinked again, this time all at once. "Earth. Human. Yes, yes. Step into the scanner, please. Standard bioclassification. Very routine." Tom climbed onto the platform, feeling the faint tingle of energy fields activating around him. The blue light intensified, sweeping up and down his body in measured pulses. He'd been through medical scanners before. This felt similar, just a bit warmer. Then the blue light turned red. A sharp alarm pierced the air, loud enough that Tom flinched. The energy field around him intensified, turning from comfortable warmth to uncomfortable heat. All around the hall, beings stopped their conversations and turned to look. The Velcorn clerk stumbled backward from its station, all 4 eyes wide. Above Tom's head, instead of a simple colored symbol, the holographic display flashed with text in a dozen languages. Tom's translator caught the meaning: critical anomaly, do not classify, containment protocol advised. "What's going on?" Tom asked, trying to step off the platform. The energy field held him in place, not painfully but firmly. "Do not move," the clerk squeaked, reaching for a communication device. "Sector Supervisor to Station 12. Immediate response required." Within seconds, security drones descended from the ceiling, their weapons not aimed at Tom but positioned in a clear defensive perimeter. Other aliens in the hall backed away, some leaving their places in line entirely. Tom's heart rate picked up. This was definitely not routine. A larger Velcorn arrived, this one wearing an elaborate sash that marked it as someone important. The supervisor's eyes scanned the display, then fixed on Tom with an expression that the translator couldn't quite convey but seemed to be pure disbelief. "How long have you been operating this station?" the supervisor asked the clerk. 293 standard years, Supervisor Kassar. "And in those 293 years, have you ever seen this response?" "Never, Supervisor. The scanner has processed over 40,000 species. It has never failed to classify." Kassar moved closer to Tom's platform, studying him from multiple angles. "Human, you say? From Earth?" "Yes, sir, or ma'am, or..." Tom fumbled, not sure of the proper pronoun. "Look, I'm just here to get my trading license renewed. I haul cargo. Agricultural equipment, mostly. There must be some mistake." "The Precursor scanner does not make mistakes," Kassar said, though the supervisor's tone suggested less certainty than the words implied. "It has categorized every known species in the galaxy for over 10,000 years. It measures biological combat potential, threat assessment, survival capability. It places beings into clear categories." "Okay, so what category am I?" Kassar gestured at the flashing red display. "That is the problem. It refuses to categorize you at all. The last time anything similar occurred was 6,000 years ago when a species called the Drevnithi were scanned. They were world eaters capable of consuming entire planets. They tested as red classification, extreme threat. But even they were classified." The supervisor's voice dropped lower. "You are the first being in recorded history that the scanner considers beyond its parameters." Tom laughed, though it came out nervous and strained. "That's ridiculous. I'm nobody. I barely passed my pilot exams. I can't even do a proper push-up most days." A new figure pushed through the gathering crowd. This one stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark chitinous armor that gleamed under the station lights. 4 arms, each ending in wicked claws, crossed over a broad chest. The being's head resembled an insect's, with compound eyes that reflected Tom's image 1,000 times over. "I am Commander Threll of Galactic Security," the creature announced. "This station is now under my jurisdiction until this anomaly is resolved." Tom swallowed hard. The commander looked like something from a horror movie, and according to the whispers spreading through the crowd, Threll's species, the Krynoth, were classified as orange-tier threats. Significant combat capability. Dangerous. "Commander," Kassar said quickly, "we have followed all protocols. The scanner activated containment procedures automatically. The human has made no threatening moves." Threll's compound eyes fixed on Tom. "Human? Have you been genetically modified? Enhanced with technology? Exposed to mutagenic substances?" "No. I'm completely normal. Average even. Ask anyone from Earth." "We shall see." Threll produced a handheld device and pointed it at Tom. The device beeped several times, displaying data that Threll studied carefully. "Physiological readings appear standard for your species. No cybernetic implants. No unusual energy signatures. Bone density, muscle composition, neural activity, all within expected parameters for an unmodified human." "See? I told you. This is just a malfunction." "The Precursor scanner does not malfunction," Threll said flatly. "If it cannot classify you, there is a reason. We will discover what that reason is." The commander turned to Kassar. "Seal this section of the station. Contact the Xenobiology Institute. I want a full examination team here within the hour. And send a priority message to the Galactic Council's Security Subcommittee. They will want to know about this." Tom's stomach sank. "Wait, how long is this going to take? I have a delivery deadline. The colonies are waiting for that equipment." Threll's head tilted in what might have been curiosity. "Your delivery schedule is irrelevant. Until we understand why the scanner has flagged you as unclassifiable, you are not leaving the station." The commander paused. "For your own safety and potentially for the safety of others, you will cooperate fully with our investigation." The energy field around Tom shifted, forming a more solid barrier. Through the translucent walls, he could see the crowd being pushed back by security drones. Kassar spoke rapidly into a communication device while other Velkorn clerks shut down their stations. Tom Harrison had woken up that morning expecting another boring day of bureaucracy and cargo hauling. Now he stood trapped in an alien scanner, surrounded by armed drones, while some of the galaxy's most powerful security forces treated him like a potential threat to civilization. And he still had no idea why. 6 hours had passed since Tom's confinement began. He sat in a white holding room, bare except for a bench and a water dispenser that had taken him 20 minutes to figure out how to operate. The door finally hissed open and Commander Threll entered, followed by a being that looked like a floating mass of purple tentacles with too many eyes. "This is Dr. Minos," Threll announced. "Xenobiologist from the Safrine Institute. The doctor has reviewed your scans." The tentacled creature drifted closer, several eyes focusing on Tom while others seemed to look in completely different directions. "Fascinating," Dr. Minos said, the translator rendering the voice as soft and curious. "Completely unremarkable. Average bone density for your species. Standard muscle development. Brain structure typical of Earth humans. No abnormalities whatsoever." "That's what I've been saying." Tom stood up from the bench. "I'm completely normal. So can I go now?" "No," Threll said firmly. "The scanner's response indicates a threat potential beyond orange classification. We must determine if this is accurate or if your species has somehow compromised Precursor technology." "Compromised? We barely figured out faster-than-light travel 20 years ago." Dr. Minos floated in a slow circle around Tom. "Which makes this more puzzling. Commander Threll, I recommend practical testing. Theory and scans only tell us so much. We should observe this human under controlled stress conditions." Threll's compound eyes glittered. "Agreed. I have arranged 3 test scenarios. Tom Harrison, you will compete against 3 orange-tier classified beings in non-lethal challenges. If you are truly average, you will fail quickly, and we can dismiss the scanner's response as an error. And if I don't fail? Then we will have much to discuss." They led Tom through corridors to a large testing facility. The room stretched at least 100 meters across, with observation windows along one wall. Several alien scientists gathered behind the glass, data pads at the ready. "First test," Threll explained, gesturing to a massive holographic display. "Navigation crisis simulation. You will pilot a damaged ship through an asteroid field to reach a safe zone. You have 15 minutes. Failure means destruction of the vessel and cargo loss. A Krynoth warrior stepped forward, similar to Threll but younger with shinier armor. I am Vess. I will complete this test first to establish baseline performance. Tom watched as Vess entered a simulator pod. The holographic display showed a ship tumbling through space, alarms blaring, systems failing. Vess's four hands moved with incredible speed across the controls, rerouting power, calculating trajectories, making split-second adjustments. The Krynoth's natural processing speed was clearly enhanced beyond human capability. Vess completed the scenario in 9 minutes, guiding the damaged ship safely through the asteroids. Your turn, Threll said to Tom. Tom climbed into the simulator pod, his hands shaking slightly. The scenario began. Alarms, flashing lights, asteroids rushing toward the view screen. His first instinct was to try what Vess had done, but his fingers couldn't move fast enough. An asteroid clipped the ship's wing. Hull integrity dropped to 60%. You are failing, Dr. Minos observed through the comm system. Tom gritted his teeth. Fine. He couldn't outthink the computer like Vess had. But maybe he didn't need to. He stopped trying to avoid the asteroids and instead fired the ship's emergency thrusters in short, chaotic bursts. The ship spun wildly, but the erratic movement made it harder for the simulation to predict his path. When a large asteroid loomed ahead, instead of going around it, Tom fired the damaged weapons system, something the scenario hadn't expected anyone to use, and blasted a hole straight through. The ship lurched through the opening, systems screaming in protest. Tom used the explosion shockwave to boost his speed, pushing the failing engines beyond their rated capacity. The safe zone appeared ahead. He killed all power except life support and let momentum carry him forward, drifting into the target area with 3 seconds to spare. The ship was barely functional, but he'd made it. Silence filled the observation room. That was not the intended solution, Dr. Minos said slowly. Did I fail? Tom asked, climbing out of the pod. No, Threll admitted. You succeeded. Barely. And you damaged the ship far more than Vess did. But I got there. The second test involved a 72-hour endurance challenge in a sealed environment with limited resources. Tom competed against a Thoraxian, a large reptilian creature with thick scales and the ability to slow its metabolism to near hibernation. The Thoraxian, named Krull, entered the chamber first. Tom watched through the observation window as Krull immediately found a corner, curled up, and barely moved for 3 days. The creature's vital signs dropped to minimal levels, conserving energy perfectly. Tom's turn came. He had no special abilities, no way to hibernate or slow his body down. The chamber was hot, the water limited, the food insufficient. After 12 hours his head pounded. After 24 his hands shook. Dr. Minos monitored his vital signs with growing concern. His body is damaging itself, the doctor reported. Dehydration, muscle breakdown, elevated stress hormones. Any rational being would request termination of the test. But Tom didn't stop. When his legs cramped, he kept walking. When thirst made his throat raw, he rationed the last drops of water. When exhaustion pulled at him, he forced himself to do push-ups. Terrible, shaky push-ups, just to stay awake. His brain kept overriding his body's demands to quit. At hour 68, Tom was barely standing. At hour 72, he was leaning against the wall, eyes unfocused but still conscious. When the doors opened, he stumbled out and immediately asked, "Did I pass?" Dr. Minos's tentacles quivered. "You should be unconscious. Your body is screaming for rest. How are you still functioning?" "Because the test wasn't done yet," Tom said simply, then collapsed. The third test came after Tom had recovered, or at least recovered enough to stand without falling over. Combat simulation against training drones programmed to orange tier difficulty. "I should tell you," Tom said as they fitted him with safety gear, "I've never been in a real fight. I got beat up in school once. That's my entire combat experience." "Noted," Thrall said. The simulation began. 3 drones materialized, hovering and armed with non-lethal stunning weapons. They moved with coordinated precision, a pattern designed to overwhelm most beings. Tom had no training, no natural weapons, no armor. The first drone shot him within seconds. The stunning blast hurt more than anything Tom had experienced. He stumbled, dropped to one knee, and the drones moved in for the finishing sequence. But Tom didn't stay down. Through the pain, he noticed the drones followed a pattern. Attack, reposition, attack. They were predictable. He grabbed a piece of the arena's environmental decoration, a metal rod meant to be part of the scenery, and threw it at the nearest drone. His aim was terrible, but the drone had to adjust its pattern to avoid the projectile. That half-second of disruption was enough. Tom rushed forward, not away from the drones but toward them, closing the distance where their weapons were less effective. He grabbed one drone and used it as a shield against the others. When they stunned it instead of him, he felt a grim satisfaction. The simulation increased the difficulty. More drones appeared. Tom got hit again. And again. Each blast should have ended the fight, but he kept getting back up, kept adapting. He used the arena's walls for cover, threw debris to disrupt their patterns, and once even climbed onto a drone's back and covered its sensors with his shirt. When the simulation finally ended, Tom lay on the ground, breathing hard, covered in sweat. 5 drones lay deactivated around him. He'd won, but he looked like he'd been through a war. Threll stood at the arena's entrance, compound eyes fixed on Tom. You had no advantages. No training. No natural weapons. Yeah, Tom gasped. So you won anyway. And more concerning, you fought harder after being injured. Your aggression increased with each hit. Dr. Minos drifted forward, all eyes focused on Tom with an expression that might have been fear. The scanner was not malfunctioning. Commander, we need to call the council. Immediately. The council chamber filled with representatives from 20 different species, all gathered via holographic projection. Tom sat in a chair at the center of the room, still exhausted from the tests, while Dr. Minos prepared to present findings to the Galactic Security Subcommittee. Commander Threll stood at attention near the doorway. Tom noticed the Krynoth warrior had positioned himself between Tom and the exit. Whether that was to keep Tom in or to protect the others, Tom couldn't tell. Honored council members, Dr. Minos began, tentacles gesturing at a floating display screen. 3 days ago, the Precursor bioscanner encountered a human and refused classification. After extensive testing, I believe I understand why. A council member that resembled a floating crystal spoke first. Dr. Minos, your initial scans showed the human was physiologically unremarkable. How does an average specimen trigger a critical threat response? That is precisely the issue, Dr. Minos replied. Let me explain how the scanner works. The Precursor device measures biological potential across 17 different threat categories: physical strength, processing speed, environmental adaptability, regeneration, natural weapons, and so forth. Every species we have encountered excels in certain categories and is weak in others. The display showed a graph with different colored bars. Take the Krynoth for example. Classified orange tier. They have exceptional physical strength, natural armor, rapid reflexes, and multi-limb coordination. However, they struggle in extreme cold, have limited problem-solving flexibility, and require specific nutritional compounds. Threll's compound eyes flickered, but the commander said nothing. Or consider the Thoraxians, Dr. Minos continued. Also orange tier. Remarkable endurance through metabolic control, resistance to toxins, and temperature regulation. But they are slow, have poor fine motor control, and limited cognitive adaptation speed. The graph shifted again, showing dozens of species. Each had high bars in some categories and low bars in others. A clear pattern emerged. Every species had peaks and valleys. The scanner classifies threat level based on a species' highest potential in their optimal environment, Dr. Minos explained. It asks, at their very best, in the perfect conditions, how dangerous could this being become? That is why we have clear categories. Green for minimal threat, yellow for moderate, orange for significant, red for extreme. A council member resembling a mass of vines spoke up. And the human? Dr. Minos pulled up Tom's graph. Every bar was medium height. Nothing exceptional, nothing terrible. Just average across nearly every category. On paper, Tom Harrison should classify as yellow, perhaps low orange at best. He has no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. His strength is mediocre compared to most species his size. He cannot survive extreme environments without technology. Then the scanner made an error, another council member said. No. Dr. Minos's tentacles quivered with emphasis. Watch what happens when we add contextual data from the tests. The graph changed. New bars appeared, but they were different. They shifted and grew as scenarios changed. In the navigation test, Tom's processing speed was well below the Krynoth baseline. But his creative problem-solving spiked to levels we rarely see. He used tools in unintended ways. He exploited the scenario's own rules. The graph shifted again. In the endurance test, Tom had no metabolic advantages. His body was actively failing. By every biological measure he should have collapsed at hour 30. But this, Dr. Minos highlighted a new measurement that glowed bright red. This is what we call persistence override. Tom's brain simply refused to acknowledge his body's limitations. He continued functioning beyond what should be biologically possible. An uncomfortable murmur rippled through the council chamber. And the combat simulation revealed the most disturbing pattern. The graph showed Tom's aggression levels increasing with each injury. Most species have a threat response, fight or flight. When injured, the logical response is retreat or surrender. Tom's biology does the opposite. Pain and injury triggered a chemical cascade that made him more determined, more aggressive, more creative in his violence. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. That makes me sound like a monster. I was just trying to pass the tests. Exactly, Dr. Minos said, multiple eyes focusing on him. You were not trying to hurt anyone. You were not angry or hateful. You simply decided the goal mattered, and your biology supported that decision regardless of cost to yourself. This is what the scanner detected. The floating crystal council member pulsed with light. I still do not understand why this prevents classification. Dr. Minos brought up comparison charts showing 20 different species and their threat curves. Every species has a ceiling, a maximum potential they can reach in optimal conditions. The Krynoth in perfect combat scenarios. The Thoraxians in extreme endurance situations. We classify based on those ceilings. The doctor paused, letting that sink in. Humans have no ceiling we can measure. Tom is not exceptional for his species, he told us himself. He is average. But average humans kept adapting beyond every limit we set. When one approach failed, he found another. When his body failed, his mind overrode it. When direct combat failed, he improvised weapons from the environment. Surely there are limits, Threll interjected. Humans can be killed. They are not invincible. Of course, Dr. Minos agreed. Individually, a human is quite fragile. But the scanner does not measure current capability. It measures potential. And human potential appears to be contextual rather than fixed. The doctor pulled up historical data from Earth. Consider their evolutionary path. Humans evolved on a death world with extreme climate variations, megafauna predators, and countless environmental threats. They had no specialization to survive any of it. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. Images appeared on the display, ancient humans chasing prey across vast distances, humans surviving Arctic cold and desert heat, humans domesticating wolves into pets. They survived through adaptability. They did not outrun their prey, they chased it until it collapsed from exhaustion. They did not fight predators directly, they threw rocks and used fire and worked in groups. They turned the galaxy's apex predators into companions through persistence and strategy. This is thousands of years in the past, a council member objected. Is it? Dr. Minos countered. Tom demonstrated every one of these traits in our test. Persistence hunting. He outlasted the Thoraxian through sheer refusal to quit. Tool use and creativity. He solved the navigation crisis by breaking the scenario's assumptions. Pack cooperation and tactical thinking. He won the combat simulation by turning the environment and even the drones themselves into weapons. The room fell silent. Dr. Minos continued, voice somber. The scanner asks a simple question. How dangerous could this being become? For most species, the answer is clear. A Krynoth at peak capability, is this threatening? A Thoraxian at peak capability, is this threatening? But for humans, the answer is, it depends on what they decide to care about. Tom spoke up, his voice small in the large chamber. I just wanted to deliver farming equipment. I wasn't trying to be dangerous. That is what concerns us, Threll said quietly. You became a threat-level challenge to orange-tier opponents simply because you wanted to pass some tests. You damaged your own body, adapted to pain, and overcame trained combat systems because those were obstacles between you and your goal. The commander's tone was almost gentle. What would you become if someone truly threatened something you loved? Tom had no answer for that. Dr. Minos closed the presentation. The Precursor scanner cannot classify humans because they are evolutionary generalists in a galaxy of specialists. They have no optimal environment because they adapt to all environments. They have no peak threat level because they continue escalating until they succeed or die. The scanner's warning was accurate. Humans are conditionally dangerous. The condition is simply whether they are motivated. The council chamber erupted in debate, voices overlapping in dozens of languages. Tom sat in his chair, surrounded by beings trying to decide what to do about him and his entire species, and wondered if he would ever get to finish his cargo delivery. The debate continued for 3 hours. Tom watched council members argue through their holographic projections, their voices rising and falling in waves of concern, skepticism, and outright fear. Some wanted humans classified as red-tier threats immediately. Others argued that decades of peaceful human trade proved they were harmless. A few suggested quarantining Earth entirely. Tom rubbed his eyes, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. He was still sore from the tests, still confused about how hauling farming equipment had turned into a galactic security crisis. A council member shaped like a vertical arrangement of floating orbs finally called for order. "We cannot debate indefinitely. Dr. Minos, you have studied this human extensively. What is your recommendation?" Dr. Minos's tentacles swayed thoughtfully. "Humans are not inherently aggressive. Tom Harrison is proof of that. He cooperated fully with our investigation despite being detained against his will. He only became dangerous when we placed him in competitive scenarios and gave him goals to achieve." "That does not comfort me," Threll said from his position by the door. "It means humans become threats the moment they want something badly enough. Or it means they become powerful allies when their goals align with ours," Dr. Minos countered. "Consider this, Tom won every test but he never once tried to escape. He never attacked any of us. He asked permission, followed instructions, and repeatedly expressed concern about his delayed cargo delivery. His priorities remained peaceful even under stress." A reptilian council member hissed softly. "But what happens when a human's priorities are not peaceful? What if they decide conquest is their goal? We have seen what one average human can accomplish when motivated by simple test scores." "Then we have a serious problem," Dr. Minos admitted. "But that has not been humanity's pattern. They have been in galactic society for 20 years. They trade, they explore, they study. Yes, they are persistent and adaptable, but they have directed those traits toward cooperation, not conquest." Tom raised his hand hesitantly like a student in class. Several council members turned their attention to him. "Can I say something?" Tom asked. The orb-shaped council leader pulsed with light. "Proceed, human." Tom stood up, feeling awkward with so many alien eyes on him. "Look, I understand I freaked everyone out. I get it. But back on Earth we have a saying, don't poke the bear. It means if you leave something alone, it will leave you alone. Humans are kind of like that." "Explain," Thrall commanded. "We do not go looking for fights. Most of us just want to live our lives, do our jobs, spend time with people we care about. I became a cargo pilot because I like traveling and the pay is decent. That's it. No grand ambitions." Tom gestured at the testing facility visible through the chamber windows. "You put me in those tests and yeah, I tried hard to win. But if you had not put me there, I would never have done any of that. I would be halfway to the Tertian colonies right now, listening to music and eating terrible freeze-dried meals." "So humans only become dangerous when provoked?" a council member asked. "When we have a reason to be," Tom clarified. "If someone attacked Earth, yeah, we would fight back with everything we have. If someone threatened my crew or my family, I would do whatever it took to protect them. But if everyone just leaves us alone to deliver our cargo and live our lives, we are harmless." Dr. Minos's eyes focused on Tom with what might have been approval. "This aligns with human history. They are fiercely defensive but rarely aggressive without cause. They bond strongly with allies and will persist in helping them. But they also hold grudges and will pursue revenge across years if they feel wronged." "That is not reassuring," the reptilian council member said. "It should be," Dr. Minos argued. "It means humanity's threat level is predictable based on how we treat them. Respect their boundaries, honor agreements, maintain peaceful relations. They remain yellow tier at most. Betray them, threaten them, harm what they protect. They escalate to red tier or beyond." The chamber fell quiet as council members absorbed this. Threll broke the silence. "So we cannot classify them with a fixed rating because their threat level is variable." "Exactly," Dr. Minos said. "Which is why I propose a new classification category." The holographic display shifted, showing a new entry in the Galactic Registry database. The text appeared in multiple languages simultaneously. "Adaptive variable threat," Dr. Minos announced. "A classification for species whose danger level depends entirely on context and motivation. Humans would be the first species to receive this designation." "What would this classification mean practically?" the orb-shaped leader asked. Dr. Minos manipulated the display, showing proposed guidelines. Humans would be monitored, not restricted. They could trade, travel, and settle throughout the galaxy as they do now. But their activities would be tracked more carefully than typical yellow or orange tier species. Any signs of organized aggression would trigger immediate council review. And if they object to being monitored? Someone asked. We explain it honestly, Dr. Minos said. We tell them what we have discovered about their own biology. Most humans do not fully understand their own capabilities. This could actually help them. Knowing how their persistence and adaptability appear to other species might make diplomatic relations easier. Tom thought about that. He had never considered himself particularly stubborn or adaptable. He just did what needed doing. But seeing himself through alien eyes, through tests designed for species with claws and armor and specialized abilities, he was starting to understand why the scanner had panicked. A new council member spoke, one who had been silent until now. The being appeared as a shimmer of light without solid form. I have a question for the human directly. Okay, Tom said. If we implement this classification, your species will be marked as potentially dangerous throughout the galaxy. Some will fear you. Some will avoid trade with you. Some may discriminate against humans in ways that cause economic or social harm. How would your people respond to that? Tom considered the question carefully. Honestly, some humans would get angry. Some would protest. Some would demand respect. He paused. But most would probably just prove you wrong by being peaceful and helpful until you realized we were not as scary as you thought. That is kind of what we do. We persist until things get better. The shimmer of light pulsed. Even that answer demonstrates the pattern. Persistence until goals are achieved. Is that really so bad? Tom asked. You make it sound like a threat, but it also means we do not give up on our friends. We do not abandon allies. We keep trying to solve problems even when they seem impossible. Maybe that is not something to fear. Maybe that is something useful. Dr. Minos's tentacles quivered in what Tom had learned was agreement. The human makes a valid point. Every trait that makes humans potentially dangerous also makes them potentially valuable. Their adaptability means they can work with any species. Their persistence means they honor long-term agreements. Their protective instincts mean they are loyal allies. Threll's compound eyes studied Tom for a long moment. But those same traits mean they are terrible enemies. Yes, Dr. Minos agreed. Which is why the classification is perfect. It acknowledges both possibilities and reminds everyone that which version they encounter depends on how they treat humanity. The council leader called for a vote. Tom watched as holographic displays showed council members registering their decisions. Green lights appeared one by one, though several red lights of dissent flickered among them. After 5 minutes, the final count appeared, approved by a significant majority. The motion passes, the council leader announced. Humanity will be classified as adaptive variable threat, effective immediately. Dr. Minos, you will work with human representatives to establish monitoring protocols and communication guidelines. Commander Threll, you will oversee the implementation of security measures. Threll nodded sharply. Understood. The council leader's attention turned to Tom. Tom Harrison, you are free to go. Your trading license will be issued with the new classification notation. We apologize for the delay and the invasive testing. A compensation credit has been added to your account for your cooperation. Tom blinked in surprise. I can leave? Just like that. You were never a prisoner, the council leader said, though Tom was pretty sure that was not entirely true. You were a puzzle we needed to solve. Now we have solved it. Your cargo is waiting. Tom gathered his belongings from the security holding area. His data pad, his jacket, and a protein bar he had been saving for the flight. Commander Threll escorted him through the corridors of Registry Station Omega-7, which had returned to its normal bustling activity. Aliens of dozens of species moved through the halls, completely unaware of the debate that had just concluded in the council chambers. Your ship is in docking bay 17, Threll said, his multiple arms gesturing down a side corridor. The parking fees have been waived given the circumstances. Thanks, Tom said, adjusting his jacket. I appreciate that. Those fees were getting pretty expensive. They walked in silence for a moment before Threll spoke again. Tom Harrison, do you understand what happened here? Tom shrugged. Your scanner glitched out, you guys ran some tests, figured out humans are weird, and now I can finally finish my delivery. Did I miss anything? Threll's compound eyes seemed to gleam with something that might have been amusement. You changed galactic policy. You are the reason humanity now has a unique classification in the registry database. Yeah, the adaptive variable threat thing, Tom said. Sounds very official. Will it affect my insurance rates? Possibly, Threll admitted. But you do not seem concerned about the broader implications. Should I be? Tom stopped walking and looked up at the towering Krynoth warrior. Look, Commander, I get that this is a big deal for you and the Council and Dr. Minos. But for me? I just want to deliver farming equipment to colonists who need it. Whatever you put in your database doesn't change who I am or what I do. Threll was quiet for several steps. That attitude is precisely what makes your species so difficult to classify. You lack ambition for status. We have ambition, Tom corrected. We just care about different things. I want to be good at my job. I want to save up enough credits to upgrade my ship's navigation system. I want to visit the ice moons of Sector 7 because I heard they are beautiful. That is my ambition. It is small, I guess, compared to galactic politics. Small? Threll repeated. Yet when we tested you, you defeated Orange-tier opponents. Because you asked me to, Tom said simply. Because it mattered in that moment. But now it is over and I have other things that matter more. Like getting those farming machines to the colonies before their planting season ends. They reached docking bay 17. Through the viewing window, Tom could see his ship, a battered cargo hauler that had seen better days but still flew reliably. The sight of it made him smile. Your species is strange, Threll said, and this time there was definitely amusement in the translated tone. You win tests designed to break Orange-tier beings, then immediately return to worrying about farming equipment and planting seasons. Is that bad? No, Threll said slowly. I think Dr. Minos was right. It makes you unpredictable but not in a malicious way. You simply have different priorities than we expected. Tom extended his hand for a handshake, an Earth custom he had learned most aliens found odd but tolerated. Threll wrapped one clawed hand around Tom's, surprisingly gentle given the dangerous-looking talons. Thanks for not throwing me in a prison cell, Tom said. And tell Dr. Minos the tests were interesting. Painful and exhausting but interesting. I will convey your message, Threll said. Safe travels, Tom Harrison. And try not to trigger any more Precursor artifacts. No promises, Tom grinned. I seem to have a talent for breaking things I touch. Tom walked through the docking bay, passed his ship's security scan and climbed aboard. The familiar smell of recycled air and machine oil greeted him. He dropped into the pilot's seat, running through pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. The cargo hold indicators showed green. His farming equipment was still secure, still ready for delivery. He was about to start the launch sequence when his communication console beeped. An incoming message from the Galactic Registry. Tom opened it and found his updated trading license. There, next to his name and Earth designation, was the new classification, AVT, Adaptive Variable Threat. Tom stared at it for a moment then laughed. He took a picture of the screen and sent it to his sister back on Earth with the message, "Apparently I'm scary now. Mom would be so proud." His sister's response came back almost immediately. You? Scary? You scream at spiders. What did you do? Long story, Tom typed. Tell you when I get back. Gotta deliver some tractors first. He closed the communication channel and initiated launch procedures. The station's traffic control cleared him for departure, and Tom guided his ship out of the docking bay into open space. The stars stretched before him, and the navigation computer plotted the route to the Tertian colonies. As he engaged the faster-than-light drive, Tom thought about the past few days. The tests, the debates, the council meetings, all of it seemed surreal now. He had apparently become the first human to receive this new classification, the example that changed how the galaxy viewed his entire species. But Tom did not feel changed. He felt exactly the same as he had before the scanner incident. Tired, behind schedule, and craving a decent meal that was not freeze-dried. His communication console beeped again. This time it was a news alert from the Galactic Information Network. The headline read, "Breaking, Galactic Council establishes new threat classification for humanity." Tom skimmed the article. It quoted Dr. Minos extensively, mentioned the Precursor scanner incident, and included expert analysis from various xenobiologists about what this meant for human-alien relations. Some commentators expressed concern. Others welcomed the clarification. One particularly dramatic opinion piece suggested humanity might become the galaxy's most valuable mediators precisely because their threat level was so context-dependent. None of the articles mentioned Tom by name. The Council had apparently kept his identity confidential, referring to him only as a human cargo pilot. Tom appreciated that. He did not need or want fame for passing some tests. He deleted the news alert and pulled up his music library instead. An old Earth song started playing, something upbeat and mindless. Tom leaned back in his pilot's seat, watching the swirl of faster-than-light travel through the viewport. Somewhere behind him, the Galactic Council was implementing new protocols. Security forces were updating their databases. Diplomats were drafting guidelines for human relations. Xenobiologists were probably writing papers about human adaptability and persistence. And Tom Harrison was listening to music and eating a protein bar, completely focused on delivering farming equipment on time. His data pad chimed with a message from the Tertian Colony Administrator. Tom, heard you got delayed at Registry Station. No worries about the schedule. Planting season was pushed back due to weather anyway. Take your time, fly safe. Tom smiled and sent back a quick acknowledgement. The universe had a funny way of working things out. 3 days later, Tom landed on Tertian Colony 7. The colonists unloaded the farming equipment with grateful efficiency, thanking him repeatedly for making the delivery despite his delay. They had no idea he had spent those extra days being tested by galactic security and inadvertently changing humanity's official classification. Tom collected his payment, filed his delivery confirmation, and started planning his next route. Maybe he would take that detour to the ice moons after all. He had earned a bit of sightseeing after the week he'd had. As his ship lifted off from the colony, heading back toward the main trade routes, Tom thought about Commander Threll's question. Did he understand what had happened? Honestly, not really. He understood that humans were now marked as special in some galactic database. He understood that aliens found human persistence and adaptability unsettling. He understood that he had somehow become an example of his species' potential. But none of that changed his life. He was still Tom Harrison, cargo pilot. Still flying the same routes, delivering the same goods, living the same modest existence. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the galaxy needed to understand that humans did not need to be conquering empires or seeking glory to be formidable. They just needed a reason to care, a goal to achieve, and the stubborn refusal to quit until the job was done. Tom set his course for the ice moons, leaned back in his chair, and let the autopilot handle the routine navigation. Somewhere in the galactic bureaucracy, his new classification was being processed and distributed. But out here, in the vast darkness between stars, Tom was just a guy hauling cargo and enjoying the view. Completely unaware that his name, though kept confidential, would be referenced in xenobiology textbooks for generations. Completely unaware that the Harrison incident would become the standard example when teaching students about human capabilities. Completely unaware that he had become the measuring stick against which all future human potential would be compared. He was just Tom doing his job one delivery at a time. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.